So if someone comes to you and says, we need a bigger house, right? What does that begin to look like? What does that conversation look like for you with them in terms of going over what their current place is like? Let's say they own, right, their 2-bed, 2-bath in Lakeview. All right, go.
So with those initial conversations, knowing that they're looking for more space, obviously I'm wanting to make sure that we have a full conversation about what their motivations are. More often than not, I have been in their shoes, so I'm able to put that lens on and try to help them by asking the right questions and understanding why.
It's funny because we tend to find out big news before other people. Like I've found out about pregnancies and divorces or job relocations before they've said anything to anyone else.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. It's confidential, information.
We're the gatekeeper.
Yeah, but it is kind of interesting to see how often that happens.
The amount of times that I have been helping a couple buy a condo, and the one partner will have to say to me, "Hey, listen, I'm saving for a ring, or I'm going to get engaged here soon." The number one thing I say is, make sure your lender knows. But congratulations. If you're using a mortgage, right? Like these big ticket purchase items, they can have an effect. But it's all exciting, and without sounding cliche, that's the part of this business that I love, because it is a relationship-based business. This is less about the transactions and the money and the actual house and what our job is. It is really, for me, I get a lot of satisfaction and gratification being able to support these clients and get to know them. And, hopefully at the end of the day, we are on great terms. We stay in touch, and they keep me posted on their life events. It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's a really great.
And I think it's important that they're upfront with what's going on as well, because it's a very different conversation. I mean, I've had those conversations where it's a couple that's not engaged, not married, right? And they're buying a place together. And I'm like, listen, there are some definite things to think about, because you are not tied to this. If something were to happen, not to say anything would, but if you were to break up, then you pretty much have to sell the place, or somebody's going to have to buy out the other person, which is very hard to do.
Right.
So, make sure you're really set. So, but they're saying, well, I'm secretly going to propose after the closing at a celebratory dinner or whatever. Okay, well, that's good to know. Again, talk to your lender. But, we need to know these things, because it's a very different conversation.
Well, and we've both been there, because both you and I bought houses with our eventual spouses.
I was engaged. You were not.
I was not. Almost.
Almost.
So we put a lot of eggs in that basket.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it is. It's really something that's important. And I always just say to my clients, yes, we're talking right now because you want to move right now. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to do the intake forms. I'm going to make sure that I know exactly what it is that you're looking for out of this move. But we have to keep lines of communication open. If anything changes with what you want, I'm not a mind reader.
Right.
You've given me certain criteria to look for you. But if we do not have an open line of communication, at all times, or if anything changes, then I can't do that best job for you. Right. So, again, it just comes back to keeping, in touch with the client throughout the entire process.
And I think people maybe not realizing that as realtors, we have duties that we are responsible for with our clients, right? Fiduciary duties, confidentiality. And I take those very seriously. I know you do as well. There are some people that might not as much. But I think people need to realize that we are going to keep this information to ourselves. If you would like, if that's what you prefer, we will default to that, of course. But, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to announce this later, okay, I won't say anything until you announce it.
Well, for example, many of my husband's coworkers in the past, and actually in the present as well, have become clients of mine. And regardless of what's going on in a transaction, outside of our house, that information doesn't come home, and that's not
Right.
shared with him.
Right.
You know, I make sure that there is that line that's drawn, and if it's okay to share, great, but more often than not, it isn't. So yeah, it's really something to
I mean,
consider.
I've had that with some friends and also my wife of, oh, tell me what's going on or this and that. Like, I cannot tell you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, it's too important. Side note here, I don't know if you've ever come across this, but I remember seeing this post on Instagram a while back of an agent being under contract on a place and talking about how if another agent comes to you and asks, hey, what are you under contract at? It's very much a sticky situation. You want to help out that agent, right? But you don't want to give specifics, because if something were to happen to that deal,
Then you've just disclosed.
what your seller is willing to accept.
Right.
Right. If your deal falls through and that agent brought a buyer to you now, maybe they were looking at a comp, right? And they're trying to figure out, okay, is this place that we're looking at on par with something that's under contract, right? Well, let's say they don't go with it, but then yours comes back on the market. Now they have that information.
Right.
So I'm a big advocate of not really releasing that information unless you're through all the contingencies, right? You're through attorney review, you're through inspection, you're through mortgage contingency, right? Even then, just say kind of vagueness, like we got overlist by a significant amount, right? Because you just don't want to put your client in a position where their financial situation is compromised.
Right. I understand, and I'm with you on that. I also really believe in agents helping agents. It's our job. It is our fiduciary duty to keep this market going. And by doing that together and collaborating as much as we can, while also making sure that our client's interest is first and foremost. Yeah, that's the priority always. But for example, a listing that we just had was a hot listing, and we had multiple offers. And after I had to deliver the news to all of the contracts that came through and those agents that did not end up getting the home, what I wanted to do was list out a couple of vague terms that were considered in the offer process and what was presented and what wasn't. And none of that has anything to do with the winning offer at all. But the more information that we can give to help other agents guide their clients, I think the better. Because how many times have you submitted an offer in a multiple offer situation for your buyers who have probably been through the ringer and this isn't their first offer?
Right.
And the other agent, calls you or emails you, sorry, the seller went in a different direction.
Yeah.
Help me. Help me here. Can you please provide context? Were we second in line? Were we third in line? Were we dead last?
Yeah.
What can you tell me
to help my clients,
to help me manage my clients' expectations and better strategize with them moving forward? So
it's funny. I have an actual quick story with Melrose earlier this year. We had 8 offers, and I mean it closed, so could talk numbers. But I think we were listed at $550, if I remember correctly, and we sold for $600 even, or maybe just slightly over $600. I can't remember now, but it was significantly over list price, right? The worst offer was $500,000, and this person was not represented by an agent. The offer was very kind of sloppily done, like almost like on a napkin. I was like, what is this?
A contract is a contract if it's
yeah,
done on
I mean,
paper.
it was a legitimate contract. I presented it, but I had to. When I told people that they did not get the place, I had to go to them and say, listen, I realize that you maybe think that it's not worth this much, but this is what the market is saying it is worth, well over list price.
A home is worth what a buyer is willing to pay.
Right. But look at this delta that we had, $100,000 plus difference on a $550,000 home. I mean, buyers think it's worth everywhere within that range. I mean, I had offers all in that range. And so whatever somebody's willing to pay for it is really what it's worth, right? So, but you have to tell people, like, guide them and say, this is what the market is. This is the reality of it. I don't want to push it.
If we are going to do this, hopefully not more than one or two more times. But if we are going to submit more offers on more homes, these are the things that you need to consider.
Right.
This is what we are up against. Are you 10% down, and can you compete with cash if all other terms are apples to apples? That's going to be a challenge. But here are some of the other things that we can do, because cash is not always king.
Right.
There are other terms that are important to sellers. So, that comes down to us as realtors doing our due diligence while showing these homes to our clients and really vetting the listing agent to the best of our ability about what those sellers' motivations are. Do they have to move by a certain point because of a job relocation, or are they building a home and we need flexibility within 60 to 90 days? Or do they need to get out of there in 3 weeks because they need to pull out their equity and buy their next home? Whatever the case may be, that is our job to find that out up front so that we can make sure that our clients are in the best position possible.
And I think, especially right now in the Chicago market, it is very tough to do a buy-sell situation. There's a lot of challenges, and one being is the competition amongst on the buy side, right? So I think, with that initial conversation with someone, you have to kind of set the tone that, hey, listen, this market is super competitive, right? If you have a home sale contingency, it's going to be even more challenging. It's not impossible, but there are some things you might want to be considering. For example, if you need to sell to buy, you need your equity out of your current place to buy your next one, I would recommend to people to look in the fall, right? Look around the holidays. You're much more likely to get a home sale contingent offer accepted during that time here in Chicago, because the market is pretty dead. And the people that need to sell at that time, right?
Yeah, Q4 is
it's like, I got a job change coming up, or it's just we have to sell for whatever reason. We're buying a place and we need to get rid of this one, whatever. So they're more willing to accept something contingent on that, or a better deal. And we find that the prices on the median prices on homes can vary from 5 to 10% from Q4 to Q1. Right. Like, if you just wait, you're going to get much more for your house, but you can buy something at a discount in Q4. So you might want to consider that, buying in the fall, selling in the spring, and kind of get the best of both markets. So yeah, that initial conversation is really circled around knowing where, what your current situation is, knowing all the options up front, and strategizing over what we can do.
Can they wait? Should they wait? I mean, I tell people all the time. We just talked to a homeowner the other day about, hey, listen, this place is beautiful. We can sell it in an instant, but I want to get it on the market by end of October. I would say generally mid-October. Or early November at the absolute very latest. This is the likely price point that we're looking at if we list in the fall. If you waited and listed it February, March at the beginning of our spring market, this is the increased
price.
Easily
5% more. One, easily 5% more.
Well, and then that also helps them with their next move as well. A lot of people say, oh, I want to wait because I need to save more money. Well, waiting to save more money also applies when you're talking about when to time your home sale.
I mean, you could also, sell something. I mean, this is one option. I haven't really seen people doing this, but sell when the market is hot, right? March, April, whenever, February.
Buy low, sell high.
Well, buy low, but if you have to sell first is what I'm saying. So I talked to my wife about this one. I was like, this is an option. We could sell it in the spring and then go stay at an Airbnb, or go, wherever, go on. If we can both work remotely, I mean, I can't so much, but she can, right? If you're with someone and you're both working remotely, go get an Airbnb in a nicer climate. It's super hot in the summer in Florida, right? But maybe you want to spend the summer in
Colorado
or Nantucket or something, right? Go spend the summer there and look for places still online and buy something in the fall then, right? Not a lot of people go that route. I know it's a lot more challenging with moving things
around,
but you could store things for a little bit and then, you could just choose that route. It's a little more challenging, or it's a little more difficult, but then you don't have that home sale contingency, right? You can still take advantage of both markets the other way, right? We
Right.
were talking originally, if you have the means, okay, buy in the fall, have 2 mortgages for a few months, and then sell in the spring. But if you need to sell first, okay, sell in the spring, go enjoy summer, and then buy in the fall.
Right.
Hope to get it. Or if you have to wait until the following spring, you're going to be more competitive. But you could save up money during that time, right? You could, I mean, yeah, you're going to have a short-term living situation. You can get short-term rentals a lot of places as well. There are options. But having that conversation up front is key.
Yeah, absolutely.